Eagle 6 in the track.
Roger.
Over 1 bombs away. One's going to climb high above 20. You're south.
Eagle 6 radar contact. Eagle 6 is visual.
And it goes left.
Well, welcome back to the DCS SITREP. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, and you're listening to news and information about the world's premier combat flight simulator. You guessed it, it's DCS World. A shorter newsletter from the ED team this week, but a couple of interesting announcements just the same, involving news about the AviaStorm Tornado and ED's big plans to streamline the two game versions, Open Beta and Stable. And also we have some news from Heat Blur, but we'll begin with ED's major announcement about the consolidation of the two versions of the game. For those that are unaware, and there are a few of you out there who are maybe newer to DCS or just not familiar with this information, ED has two versions of DCS World, 3 if you include Steam. The Open Beta version, which allows players to test out new features, get access to new modules, and other content that gets injected into the game via the Open Beta version. The byproduct for them is that you have, well, potentially more bugs for those end users operating that version of the game. ED also gets a lot of feedback from a large pool of players running the game on a wide variety of hardware, so it's good feedback for them. For those not willing to have a potentially buggier game experience, there is the stable version, which a lot of people run when they initially get into DCS, and for a long while it was actually well behind the injection pool of new content, which meant that players missed out on stuff that was floating around in open beta. Now that changed in the last few years, and it's been kept more regularly up to date, so players weren't really missing out to the same degree on the new modules and other content that came through Open Beta. ED said that community feedback has led them to decide to make a unified DCS update system to avoid the confusion between the versions and also streamline the multiplayer environment and the single-player mission environment. I think this is a really good idea, as most players, well, once they find that the Open Beta version exists, well, they tend to run that for the most part and almost exclusively in order to access the new material straight away over the stable version. ED also stated that in the next update, which is scheduled actually for February, so not far away, they hope to make the same changes to the Steam edition of the game. Again, I think this is a great idea. It makes so much sense given that most players are running open beta anyway, and generally it's fairly stable. And ED has spent a lot of time over the last several years trying to make sure that the open beta version is generally stable. Obviously there are quirks and inconsistencies from time to time, and bugs creep in, and these things always come up as a discussion point. But overall, I think that is a really good idea. Again, given that most people are actually just running the open beta version anyway, most of the multiplayer servers are open beta, etc., etc. It just really doesn't make sense to have both versions of the game. And people have brought this up as a discussion point on my channel previously. And again, I think it's a good idea. Now, as far as its implementation, that's all we know for now. So we'll need to wait for more information, presumably in February, and what I suspect will be the first pretty decent patch for 2024. And 2024 as a year, I suspect, is really going to be a big one for ED and the DCS community. And the reason I say that is because the impression that I'm getting from ED and the ED team right now in general is there's a lot of confidence in core engine updates and new content that we're going to get for this year that's going to cement the game as the premier combat flight sim currently available for home use, which is really just a reinforcement of my opening intro statements about this being the premier combat flight simulator for the home PC, which I truly believe it is. There are some contenders out there, but outside of some sort of commercial product, this is the best you're going to get for a home PC. Stay tuned for more information. I'm excited about this. Okay, in third-party news and tacking back onto the back of the exciting development report on the F100 Super Sabre from last week, ED gave us an update from AviaStorm, who are the team responsible for bringing us a Tornado variant to the game. I regularly get requests for information from community members about this popular product, and we get here a little teaser of some more 3D artwork from the team as they aim to produce, they say, an aircraft that meets community expectations. And the expectations are high, AviaStorm, so Let's hope you're paying attention. Now, I believe what we're looking at here in terms of some of the images are some back seat panels that were revealed in the newsletter this week, and the team advised that they are aiming to produce many small details that many customers might even miss, but they're ones which the team believe will make the Tornado a masterpiece. Two examples they plugged to that end are the emergency ram air flap and the two cooling flaps. And they're quite right, I think, in that I believe there will be high demand from the community to produce a module that meets, well, the demand for polish and immersion, and what I imagine is going to be a very, very popular module. The additional challenge for the team will be tackling, we've seen this with other developers as well, the role of the navigator in the jet, which was a very involved role. As I said, we've seen other developers, including ED, work and produce plausible AI to control pivotal crew coordination. That is no easy task, so I think the team is going to have its work cut out for it with regards to that. HeatBlur lead the way in that development with their incredibly well thought out Jester system. So I wish AviaStorm all the best. I think it's definitely going to be a great aircraft and a sought after one, as I've said, but the bar is very high too for modules which present some serious challenges for all of the module makers out there to meet and satiate the community demand. So let me know what you think about the work that we're seeing here. We can't really take too much from 3D images. It's nice to see an update. It's nice to see the team still working on the project, but I think it's early days yet in terms of overall development. Remember, one of the big things is making sure the aircraft handles right. So the flight model, that's a lot of calculation. And then again, harking back to the backseater, that's going to be a very pivotal component to the success of this module, I think. Again, let me know what you think. Okay, so since I originally recorded this, when during the editing process, I got an update from Discord, and AviaStorm produced a little blurb, an addendum, if you like, to what was released in the newsletter from ED. So they said here that 2024 is the 50th anniversary of the first flight of the Tornado, which I was not aware of. They wanted to provide an update to the community on the status of development for the module, because, as I said before, it's not entirely clear what specific things they're working on outside of those 3D modules that we saw. So they're saying here that the next step in the development of the Tornado has been focused on the office, both the pilot and the Wizzo cockpits, which are the beating heart of the jet. And they say here it's going to be what people will become the most familiar with when flying the Tornado. They are progressing very well and are working on ensuring that they can really bring the Tornado to life and provide the best and most detailed Tornado simulation in the modern age. Ooh, that's exciting stuff. If they can pull it off, which I think they can. Of course, the flight model is very important to a comprehensive Tornado experience. They have commenced work on the Flight Control System, or FCS, and the Command Stability Augmentation System, or CSAS, as of mid last year. So that's a good indication that they are well in development of that. Good sign. Work has been underway for 6 months now on the design of a complex engine model, and then they basically signed off. So again, we can't make too many deductions in terms of the overall progress. It's far too early to do that, but I think it's a promising sign. They obviously, I think, were aware that the pictures themselves that they provided didn't give us too many clues as to the overall development. So we can see if they're 6 months in on flight control stuff, that's a really good, healthy sign. If they're 6 months in on engine development, again, that's a really healthy sign. It means little, though, in terms of the release date or early access. It's way too early to talk about that. I think that's fair. But very, very importantly, the code and the number crunching stuff is going on. It's not just a bunch of pretty pictures, which is not easy to do, but compared to the number crunching stuff that I'm referencing, it's a lot easier. It's one thing to create the skeleton, if you like, and the exterior pictures and make it look pretty. It's a whole other beast to have the flight model done and the engine management system done and the jet basically flyable and working in game. So short take, positive take. It's looking good, sounding promising. So stay tuned for more information as it comes to hand. Now, while we're talking about third-party developers and cutting-edge technology, not covered in the newsletter this week. And speaking of HeatBlur, you will have noticed that the HeatBlur team yet again released some great cinematic footage of the F4E Phantom 2 in a dramatic Wild Weasel action video. You gotta be shitting me. So we got to see some more close-ups of the bird in action, and in conjunction with the cinematic, Heatblur also released the F4E manual for perusal prior to the early access release of the aircraft, which was really exciting. I haven't had a chance to have a look yet because I was writing the script for this and recording. But there is a feedback section on their Discord channel, and I think you can definitely consider the manual a work in progress as a result of that, and subject to change. It was also announced that more information on the Jester 2.0 AI will be revealed closer to the release date. The release date, you say. When is it? When is it coming? Well, I predicted a Q1 release this year, and I'm sticking with that theory for now and that prediction. The actual date is not certain, or hasn't been revealed, but I suspect we're not that far away. Otherwise, why bother getting any feedback on the manual? Sure, if there is feedback that needs to be injected and implemented, you'll need time to do that, but this isn't as encompassing as other aspects of the overall module development. That's something that can be done in a relatively short time by comparison. So I think, and as I've said before, ED indicated a major February update was coming in the newsletter, so I wonder if we'll see the DCS version synchronization, as we mentioned before, with Open Beta and Stable and Steam, and then perhaps the subsequent release of the Phantom module once that's done. And this would allow, therefore, that everyone who pre-ordered the Phantom module will get it at the same time, and then won't have to worry about mismatch game versions and multiplayer incompatibility and all that kind of stuff. So that's my guess, I think. And if they are doing that, I think it's a very clever concept, and I wonder how much input Heatblur has had on that. But as usual, one can only speculate based on the clues available. Let me know what you think of my assumptions here, and also if you saw the video, if you've had a look at the manual, and what you think of Heatblur Simulation's effort. As I've said previously, they're a very dynamic team with highly creative people who not only come up with amazing concepts like Jester and Jester 2.0, presumably once we see that, but they also deliver them in high quality. So it's great for the game, it's great for ED, and naturally, therefore, it's great for end consumers. So that wraps up really the major news floating around the community right now in terms of specific DCS news. ED also endorsed Growling Sidewinder, who is now an affiliate of ED this week. He's, of course, well known to the DCS community for producing interesting videos, primarily centered on BFM and some other topics as well. So congratulations to him and the work he's done in flooding, I guess, the YouTube algorithms with DCS content. There are a few others as well. That content is critical for dragging in many of the new players and keeping DCS fresh for viewers learning about the game. This is why it's important to interact with the YouTubers' content. So liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. It's certainly helpful in keeping my little channel alive, so don't forget to do that. That's my little segue into that. And I have more content coming, I'm working on. It's actually pretty challenging doing a channel like this, working a 40-hour plus week for my workday, and then finding spare time to produce even basic videos like this. It's hours of recording, editing, and sometimes even the video. A longer video, 20 minutes plus, can take 3 or 4 hours to render before you're even able to upload it. So again, I appreciate all of the interaction and the discussion on the channel and that support that you provide, so please keep doing that. And I think that's it for this week. We'll see you next time on the DCS SITREP. I will post a link to the manual from Heatblur below in the comments section or the description, and also the link to the video as well. And we'll see you next time. This is Prickly Hedgehog out.